Hello and welcome to our new lecture of D.H. Lawrence Sunset Lovers, and this lecture is going to discuss the defeat of Miriam and Clara. Without further ado, let's get started. Miriam versus Mrs Morrell. Paul realizes that he loves his mother more than Miriam, and Miriam seems also to realize that their relationship will never deepen. One day, Paul comes to call and is unusually irritable. When Miriam begs him to tell her what is the matter, he tells her that they had better seek off. She does not understand why, and he tries to tell her that even though they have agreed that they are to be friends, it neither stops there nor gets anywhere else. She finally understands that he is telling her that he does not love her and he wants to leave her free for another man. Paul misses Willie's farm when he does not go there to call on Miriam, so he continues to go there to be with Edgar and the rest of the family. He no longer spends much time alone with Miriam, but one night he ends up alone with her when Edgar stays for communion with Mrs Morrell. They are discussing the sermon and he reads to her from the Bible, and they almost attain their previous level of harmony until Paul begins to feel uncomfortable. Paul walks with Miriam and Clara. Clara walks a little ahead, and Miriam asks Paul if he still finds her disagreeable. He replies that something is the matter with her, and she agrees. They arrived at a field of wild flowers and enjoy it together. Paul and Miriam pick flowers, and Clara says she does not like to pick them because she does not want the corpses around her. Paul argues that it is sufficient reason that he likes and wants the flowers and that there are plenty of them, and Miriam says that the spirit in which the flowers are picked is what matters. Paul takes his mother to Lincoln to see the cathedral, and he becomes worried about her when she cannot climb the hill because of her heart. He laments the fact that his mother is old and ill and that he was not the eldest son, and his mother tells him that she is only a bit old and not really ill. Paul writes Miriam a letter attempting to explain what has happened in their love, and we are told that this is the end of the first phase of Paul's romantic endeavors. The main significant event in this chapter is that Paul returns to his mother's love, reasserting her place as his closest loved one. He decides to abandon his affair with Miriam because his mother is more important, and he also strongly insists that he will not marry and leave his mother. It is also significant because it contains the first real meeting between Paul and Clara. Although their relationship does not really begin until later, this is their first important point of contact. Paul sends a painting to an exhibition at Nottingham Castle, and one morning Mrs Morrell gets very excited upon reading a letter. Turns out that he has won first prize, and that the painting has been sold for 20 guineas to Major Moreton. Paul and his mother celebrate his success, and he tells her that she can use the money to buy Arthur out of the army. Paul is invited to some dinner parties and tells his mother he needs an evening suit. She gives him a suit that was William's. Paul's newfound success prompts discussions with his mother about class and happiness. She wants her son to ascend into the middle class, but he says that he feels closest to the common people. Mrs Morrell wants her son to be happy, which seems mostly to mean finding a good woman and beginning to settle down. Paul argues that he worries a normal life might bore him. Paul maintains his connection with Miriam, able neither to break it off entirely nor to go the full way to engagement. He feels that he owes himself to her, but he begins to drift slightly away from her. One day, a mutual friend asks Paul to take a message to Clara Dawes. He goes to her house, meets her mother, and observes them working on a making lace. He delivers his message, has a pleasant conversation with Clara and her mother, and leaves, having gotten a humbling view of Clara, whom he had previously believed to be so high and mighty. Paul finds out that Susan, one of the girls at Jordan's, is leaving to get married, and so he gets Clara her job. The other girl do not like Clara because she acts like she is above them. They call her the Queen of Sheba. Clara sends Paul a book of verse and a note as a birthday present. This incident brings Paul and Clara closer together. They discuss what happened between Clara and her husband, and somehow the subject of Miriam comes up. Paul says that Miriam wants his soul, which he cannot give her. Clara, however, informs him that Miriam does not want his soul, only Paul himself. Paul maintains his closer relationship with his mother, allowing her to live victoriously through his experience. He tells her everything that happens in his life, and she feels as though she is a participant. William is mentioned and reflected on several times on this chapter. First of all, when they are discussing Paul's success, Morrell says that William might have been as successful as Paul had he only lived. This statement affects Mrs Morrell deeply and makes her feel strangely tired. When Paul tries on William's suit, she thinks again of William, but is comforted by the thought of Paul. The notion that Mrs Morrell possesses Paul is particularly strong here, and this concept, which is constant throughout the novel, may account for Paul's failure to develop a strong relationship with another woman. In the very end of this chapter, Clara provides the motivation for Paul to go back to Miriam. It is interesting that this motivation comes from Clara, since Miriam is her chief rival, beside Mrs Morrell, for Paul's affection, of course. Last but not least, we have the important quotations of the two chapters, 9 and 10. We have the first, which says, "It neither stops there nor gets anywhere else." This is the reflection of Paul's and Miriam's relationship, where they keep saying that their relationship is merely friendship and not love, and then they tend to go towards a stronger relationship and they end up breaking up. The second quotation is, "I don't think I love you as a man ought to love his wife." And this is said by Paul to Miriam as well. Paul breaks things off with Miriam in part because his mother does not approve of her. Paul claims he does not love her like a wife, but in reality the only woman he is ever loved that way is his mother. This is the end of our lecture for today, and I hope to see you in the next one.